My sister, 22F, walked in on me, 25F, and our family friend, 26M, up. Now, both of our families are congratulating us on our relationship. We're not dating. Two of my parents are good friends with another couple, and our family have spent the most of their lives growing up together. As a consequence, I've known Daniel, 26M, for the most of my adult life. A running joke between our families has always been that one day, me and Ann would get married and we'd all be a true family. The first time we met was when I was 16 and my parents tried to push us to go on a date. It was a disaster, and the two of us joked that we would never be able to date one another even if we were the last people on the earth. During the same time period, my relationship with my then boyfriend came to an end, and Daniel was also single. We ended up being friends with benefits, with the understanding that no one in our respective families would find out what we were up to, for over a year. We've been doing this successfully, and everything has been going well up until now. Last night, my sister caught us in the act when we were up at my place in the city. She had the biggest grin on her face, and when we tried to explain to her that this was not what she was thinking, she just nodded and murmured, "Oh yeah," without saying anything further. It took less than 20 minutes after she departed before my mother texted me to congratulate me, saying she couldn't believe Daniel and I had finally started dating and asking how long Daniel had been my boyfriend. One of the difficulties is that we are not currently dating and have no intention of doing so in the near future. Since then, the rest of our families have been cracking jokes in our shared group chat, and my father has even been in touch with Daniel to discuss his intentions, according to Daniel. The only thing he could do was go along with it. This whole scenario is terrible, but it would be even worse if we just said that we are FCK mates. Please provide me with a believable explanation for what my sister saw. And now that I've written this essay, how are we going to persuade both of our families that we will never date and that they should give up on their romantic fantasies? Story 2. Being a cheater messes you up emotionally. Starting with the confession that I've cheated on 5 separate individuals, I'll go on. My justification was that I wasn't mature enough to understand the importance of commitment. It was exhilarating, and I really enjoyed the experience. The loneliness I experienced when each relationship ended, on the other hand, increased. I soon came to the conclusion that enough was enough, and as a consequence, I met a beautiful person without even looking. To shorten a long story short, we reached an amicable agreement to part ways since I must move. For a year, we spoke by phone and text messages every day. My step back causes him to grow further distant. We do, however, get together from time to time. Then he vanishes without a trace, and I keep him at bay in every situation. Despite the fact that I was still in love with him, I didn't allow myself to be sad over the end of our relationship. So, a year later, I'm still feeling the effects of it. His email asked me to call him, and when I looked into it, I found that I had had FB contacts with him. He also mentioned that he had written me a letter. We have another conversation. We aim to get together, and I inquire as to whether he has ever had relations with anybody. I subsequently found out that he had a new girlfriend after I left him, and that they are still living together now. While he feels suffocated by the relationship, he has no plans to end it. He states that his employer wants to move him to the United States to live, but he does not want to, and that being in a relationship means he will not be transferred. But if he marries her, they would send both of them to live in the United States. Is that correct? It's most likely BS, since he says he never found the right time to ask me, possibly when I came to him and asked if there was a chance we might get back together. His reaction was, "Okay, let's see how things turn out." The key is that he wants to keep being buddies with you, and it kills my heart to watch anything like this happen. He was the last person I met. I haven't met anybody else since I just don't have the energy to meet anyone else. I'm still grieving for what we had, for my fantasy of what may have been. Due to the fact that the list is much too long, I chose to be his buddy as an emotional masochist. Although it seems to be lasting, I know it isn't, since I'm about to join the Navy and leave town, this time with no regrets because I'm leaving a loved one behind. What is the big deal, fellas? I approached him and inquired as to when he had realized he no longer cherished my company. What was his response? "I still care for you, but you had to leave, and I needed someone to lean on. For the time being, I'm acting distant. All I want is, I've established the condition that no personal questions be asked, and he's put the condition that there will be no argument. I know it's all horrible, and I realize this isn't the best strategy for obtaining total closure, but I'll be able to achieve closure on a few issues this way. I'm very aware of how sad this must seem. As a consequence, I've come to the conclusion that my generation is now rotten. We aren't faithful, we aren't loyal, and we don't believe in the virtue of patience. In the pursuit of love, in the pursuit of a partner with whom to build a future, I've given up. I'm drained and finished. Story 3. Boyfriend of 4 years tried cheating on me. Not sure what to do. Here's the gist of it. I attempted to exclude little aspects on which I obsess. We've been together for over 4 years. He just graduated and is having difficulty finding work. It's a dreadful job. This is only significant because he is very depressed, making it impossible for me to discuss sensitive topics with him. I glanced at his Facebook around a year and a half ago. This was a recipe for disaster. I see why this was incorrect. The computer was turned on. I read over his texts. This was the first time I'd ever done anything like this. 2 years into our relationship, I discovered a message he sent to a female. That October, I moved in with him for the second time. This message was delivered that spring. Essentially, the message requested. He pleaded with her to come over. They had known one other since high school. She declined him a few times in the texts, but he assured her that he would be flexible and make it worthwhile for her to do so. His typing was indicating that he was inebriated. She remained calm in the face of the circumstances. She first mistook it for a joke, but soon realized he was serious. He pleaded. She was perplexed as to why he would do this, given that they both had a relationship status. He brushed off the question. He told her it was good to chat to her the following morning, provided he was sober, but he completely ignored her remarks or queries. I was heartbroken. I approached him right away. He pretended at first that he didn't recognize the name. I have it all saved on my computer. He went on to say that he knew her by her maiden name in high school. They were never a pair, but I think his ex-girlfriend and her had a fling, and he was okay with it. When he was younger, they all one night. I didn't want to pass judgment on him for his previous flings, but I can't forget this talk. Of course, things got a little bumpy after that. He apologized profusely. He stated he had no recollection of anything. He still insists that he can't. He admitted that alcohol had been consumed that night. This was prior to my moving in with him. Another occurrence occurred while we were out with a mutual buddy. We'd moved on from the first time. I figured if he didn't have with her and never allowed it to happen, then it didn't matter. We had disagreements and tearful nights, but we went on. It was difficult. We did, however, go out with a buddy one night. The buddy became quite inebriated and admitted to drinking with him another night while I was out of town. Our acquaintance recalled that night, adding that my boyfriend was quite intoxicated and attempted to flirt with someone. She invited him to accompany her home, and I believe he admitted to our buddy that he was undecided about what to do. This was, of course, quite upsetting and unnerving. That night, I was going to put a stop to it. I was in such anguish and heartbreak. He stated he had no knowledge of this. I informed him that drinking is the source of the issue. This profoundly irritated him and just fueled his rage. He wouldn't even entertain the notion that this scenario was realistic. To shorten a long story short, welcome to the present. I tried everything to move on. Drinking has improved my mood. He is sad as a result of his employment. I'm still saddened by these events. I still don't know how to approach him about these. He was unhappy about them, but he kept to his narrative, which he couldn't recall. He claims again and over that he would never do such things. I make an effort not to bring it up. But now, when I bring him up, which I seldom do since it begins a huge debate, he refuses to even recognize the events. I ended up becoming irritated over it one night. He wouldn't even say anything. I inquired as to whether he was aware of my dissatisfaction. I informed him immediately away that I was furious about his attempt to cheat. Finally, he turned it around on me, accusing me of being insecure and never trusting his word, or that I just don't comprehend how much he loves me. I feel like most of the time when we speak about it, I wind up being the bad person. He inquires as to why I bring it up. Why is it now? I'm at a loss on what to do. I'm at a loss as to how to get rid of these sensations. I'm not sure whether I should speak to anybody. Many people would advise me to stop things with him. It was such a horrible thing to find out at the 2-year mark. I was eager to get started. Many people will advise me that I should end things with him. Has anybody else been in a position like this? I'm simply not sure what my next steps should be. I don't want to abandon him. We've gone through so much as a group. At times, I simply don't know how to cope with it. Even though I convinced him that we needed a vacation, he is in such a horrible mood right now. I honestly feel terrible about bringing IT up again, but something inside of me nags that tells me I need to discuss it. I generally bring it up when I know I'll be out of town for an extended period of time. It seems to me that this may happen again, that no one else will see it how wasted he becomes and tell him he doesn't need any more. I may never find out. He might never truly cheat on me. If these things have nearly occurred, I feel like I'm simply a sitting duck in a deceitful game. He could have one relationship in which he freely acknowledged to being a cheater. I inquired as to why. He informed me that things were tough with his then-girlfriend, so he was seeing someone other and planned to date her, and then ended with the other. That, however, never occurred, and in the end, he just cheated on his then-girlfriend. I was astonished when he acknowledged so long ago, but now it seems that he has a deeper issue than I realize.